Hey everybody, welcome back to another step-by-step brought to you by MichToy Soldier. And in this week's episode, I'll be walking you through the process I took to paint a Warhound Titan wreck for a display slash playboard. When starting any model, I always like to use Stynylrez's black primer. It's great primer, it goes on nice and smooth, and it adheres wonderfully to the model. Once the primer is dry, I go on to using AK Interactive's 3G Ultramarine. I make sure to hit all the upper areas, not always into the recesses, but I want to get a good establishment of that base color on the model. Once the first blue color is established, I go over on to using Ducat Blue by another 3G paint by AK Interactive, and I start to bring out those highlights to create more contrast in the model. Again, keep in mind this is a wreck of a vehicle, but I do want to make it look visually interesting when you look at the model. So you can see that it was at one point a usable Warhound Titan. Now, as I begin going through this entire process, again, remember this is a speed painting tutorial. And as you can see here, I'm going now up to my final highlight. Now, as I said, it's a speed painting tutorial, and I'm actually using a 3D printed model or a render of a Warhound Titan. I certainly didn't want to buy a Forge World one and then tear the poor thing apart. I've already got one, and I like it too much. It's on my display cabinet, and I certainly don't want to destroy it. But that being said, sometimes having a 3D printer is really efficient when you want to create stunning pieces of different terrain elements for either display or for a table for playing on demonstrations, or if you just want a good presentation board for an army. Now in this case, you can see as I went back with my final highlight, I put down a black coat of my primer, and now I'm going to go over to Vallejo's Metal Color Magnesium and dry brush it very gently onto all the metallic bits of the Warhound. For this technique, you can use any sort of method of applying the metal color. I prefer to use a makeup brush because the bristles are nice and soft, and I can make a nice, even effect while dry brushing. There are specific paintbrushes out there for dry brushing, but just for the purpose of this large model, I did use a makeup brush because it allowed me to get to more area in less time. Now with the steel colors out of the way, I went over to a gold color to start getting all the trim. Again, remember this is a wreck, but we do want to accent some nice key details of the model to make it look like it was at one time well maintained and prized by the army that was using it. For this, I just use a nice big brush and use a very nice fluid action that Vallejo Metal Colors paints have to cover all the nice intricate details. After the gold is out of the way, I go back one more time with a lighter color, in this case duraluminum, to accent the silver, or I should say the steel colored areas, with one final push of highlight. Now, once all the base colors are established, I go over and clear coat the model with a satin varnish. I found that a satin varnish is a good cross between a flat and a gloss because it allows the capillary action of either using enamel products or oil products to work around the details without making the model look too glossy. Now here we start adding more definition using a dark wash by Meg Productions. Now keep in mind, I'll be using this dark wash to accent the different details around the model. I won't be covering the entire model, I'll be just using it to accent the different points like you see here along the gun, the creases, anything else where you'd see dirt and grime, or anywhere that needs a little bit of definition on the model. It brings it back, it pops it, and creates a lot more contrast. And as you can see here, the nice cross between using a flat or a gloss is that you have the satin varnish, because it does suck the enamel product away in using the capillary action to get into all the details. If it was a flat varnish, I would have a hard time, a lot more spreading, and be very hard to remove. Now I'm going to take some of my fast dry thinner, go back and clean up a little bit of the overages like you see right there, and just kind of blend it back into the details. Keep in mind that since it is a wreck, we don't need to be exactly precise about how much we remove. There's going to be a little bit of accumulation of dirt, mud, debris, all that fun stuff since it is a wreck, but we want to make it so it doesn't look so it's sloppy. So you're going to see I'm start scrubbing, removing it more and more, and I'll just work with the fast dry thinner to make sure it does blend in a bit. And now once that's done, it's a good segue into the weathering and finishing touches portion of this project. So first, I'm going to get a nice mixture of Africa Dust Effects with my thinner, run it through the airbrush with a hint of track wash, and start to really stack on that dirt and grime effect in very slow successive layers. It's going to look glossy for a bit, but don't worry, it does tone down as it dries. One thing I did have off camera that you don't see because it took up too much of the camera space was the use of a hair dryer. That creates a much faster drying process when I'm using these products. And it also allows me to see what the end product will look like, because if you have it always so glossy, you're not going to get a good representation of what the effect truly is. Once the dirt effects were in place, I went back with some fast dry thinner and a large brush to create some nice streaking effects to make it look like there was some rain or water or whatever else that was dripping down the model, or the wreck I should say, and create a nice dynamic look as if the dust and streaking grime or whatever else is coming off the wreck as it sits there. Also, this stuff is a good way to go back and fix and address any problem area that I saw when I was applying the dirt and dust effects to the model. So if I have to, I can use that thinner to kind of clean it up. And now I'm going to go back over with a deep shadow wash by Wilder and start blending it in, even if there is a little bit of thinner left on the wreck. I use this as an area to create some scorching effects, or even just up the contrast if I feel if it needs some more. Now you will see some areas where there is some thinner on the wreck. That's okay, as I'm pushing around the airbrush, it's going to blend a bit with the dark wash that I'm using. Once the contrast and the dirt effects are to my liking, I then bring out the Magic Paste, the dry mud by AK Interactive, to blend the entire wreck in with the rest of the table. I take that, since it is water soluble, I take it and I start flicking it all over the model to create some nice splatter and mud effects. And from there, the wreck is done. I got this done in under a day and a half, and I could have gotten it much faster. But I'm happy with the results. I could always go back in and add a little bit more detail, but I think as just a gaming table or even a quick piece to get ready for a tournament or event, it's a great way to go. As always, thanks for watching this week's video, and if you feel inclined, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for further updates. Until next time, have a great one and take care.